Hey, boo. Hey. I guess we are technically live.
Okay.
I can't hear you. If you're
Oh, can you hear me
you're not
now?
muted, but I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Hello,
I hear you.
everyone out there watching. I believe we are, we are live on YouTube currently. Let me see what it's looking like on our end. Okay, cool. I wonder if I can do gallery view. Let me see if that shows up on the YouTube. Let's see. This is so interesting. I've really figured out how to do this 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I can't hear nobody.
Can you hear me?
Oh, gallery. Oh my God. That's because I have my computer muted. All right, one second. Okay. This is so interesting. I've really figured out how to do this 5 minutes playing on another screen. Okay. We figured it.
Now you know how I feel when I have to go like 5 minutes prior to the film screening.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Oh my gosh.
That happens. It's technology.
Yeah.
To meet you, Ayanna, the film. I mean, we'll talk about it. I'll let Britt introduce you and everything, but I just have to say, watching it for like the past hour, I'm having like so many flashbacks and memories of my high school, and even as a kid, hearing my parents with, junkyard, backyard, the whole crew, and then just not even realizing the history of like the different eras of go-go. That was like fascinating. That blew my mind a little bit. But yeah, we'll talk about it. But
yeah. No, I'm excited to hear, your reactions too. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so glad we're able to screen this. I remember the early stages when you were planning this. We met at that spot in
Mall.
Yeah. And you bought me brunch from Bus Boys.
Oh, that was the first time. Yes.
Very first time, yeah. So to see this come to fruition is just amazing. How do you feel? I'm sure this is like your 80,000th time watching this. But how does it watching it yet again?
I mean, it's interesting because it's like I will always love it. This is like the first like film for me that I made. But like when you make something and then like later, it's just kind of like, oh my God, I wish I would have did this differently. Or, like, so it's just me kind of like critiquing myself, but still like to hear everybody's reactions to it is just like still so great.
Yes. And I was there when we screened it at Eaton.
Yes.
That was such a great experience. It was really people from the community there. Like we were just, talking shit and just reminiscing about the good old days. Because go-go does seem, when you speak about it, it is the good old days. Because it's so, the culture has changed tremendously. There's a lot of efforts to keep it going. But as we remember it, especially now that social gatherings just aren't even like happening.
Yeah.
It really was a time,
Yeah. And it's just kind of like, I feel like for me in making this film, like, I feel like it is now being added to like that canon of, just what art that has been created about go-go. So I'm happy I could like, add and contribute to that.
Yes. So growing up, were you in the go-go? I know I would go to teen nights. Anything that was like public, I probably wasn't there, but I remember it was a part in the documentary where you mentioned Matt Barnes and kind of like the classism of go-go, and like if you were seen there, you might get fired. But I do remember, the private schools would have go-go's like Gonzaga and Sidwell and GDS. These really elite private schools would have these really like, people from living around Blue. You would see them. But can you talk about your experience of go-go growing up?
I was definitely that kid sneaking into the go-go's. My parents did not know where I was. Like they definitely thought I was at a friend's house spending the night, but we were definitely at the go-go's. And I definitely frequented the ones that were at those private schools. But I also was at like the teen nights at like the Zanzibar.
Yes.
um yeah, I was definitely at like the Neon, the CFE, but yeah, there was just that stigma of violence around it, so I wasn't really just able to always be honest with my parents about where I was going. So but I was there. I was
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely you know, like I just feel like it was really just like the soundtrack to my youth, like that. Like I can't really imagine what growing up in DC would have been like for me if I didn't have access to those spaces. And so like, you know, I'm really just thankful for those, you know, memories that I have. And I just it just like really breaks my heart to think that like kids don't really have that now. Like, you know, it just seems so unfortunate to me. Like, and just especially because those experiences are what, you know, differentiate like my growing up, you know, as a teenager as opposed to somebody else who lives in California. You know, like we're not sharing the same experiences. So I feel like that is also just like, you know, my connection to just where I'm from. Yeah.
When homegirl said her Outback, the
It
band
was.
Outback.
And honestly, I really debated about if I wanted to include that because I just like, I'm not trying to like embarrass her in including this because she's wrong, but it really goes to show like they don't know, you know, like, and I think that I knew that it was something that like that I wasn't the only one that was concerned about when I was talking to TOB and their member Meaty. He like I could see the like sadness in his face when he was just like, you know, I really do hope that there are some bands after us, but like they don't really understand the music, you know, and it's just like when I was in high school, everybody had a go-go band. Like every, you know, everybody, all the girls was trying to go to the band practice. Trying to find somebody band practice to go to, and you know, like it was a thing. And so it's just kind of like I know that like those bands are still playing right now, but it's just kind of like they're gonna get older, you know, and it's just like if there isn't someone to after them to keep it going, I just don't really know what that's gonna look like for the city.
Yeah. What about you, Malachi? Do you have any early experiences with go-go music, live go-go music in particular?
Oh yes, growing up, I grew up in Capitol Heights, so my dad listened to everything: Rare Essence, Junkyard Band, Chuck Brown, of course. That was my childhood. You know, on top of R&B music and you know the whole era of the '90s. But um, I had an early appreciation for go-go music and the roots of it. You know, the funk, and it just gave me a deeper appreciation for music in general. Dancing to it, the whole culture behind it. It's unique to DC, and you venture out to DC, outside of DC, people have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to go-go music, and that just gives you more of a sense of pride in that this is unique to DC. Even if you go to Baltimore, people don't appreciate go-go music there, probably still to this day. Um, but yeah, I really just watching the film, it gave me amazing flashbacks of just my childhood listening to it, my first impressions of go-go music. And the other interesting thing was you highlighted violence within go-go music and just go-go venues. I don't think it's generational from my experience because I've been in high school, I've been to functions and, you know, things happen, you know, things end up in the parking lot, police comes and, you know, party's over. Even to recently, a few years back, pre-COVID, I went to the it was like Rare Essence, Junkyard, and EU was at the Howard Theater, I think, a few years back. And a scuffle happened, bunch of older folks, 50, 60 years old, a scuffle happened right in the middle of the floor. And it ended up, you know, the crowd just pushed it out the back door and everyone just went back to doing their own thing. And that's how they handled it. But I'm just like, that's no different from, you know, teenage or early 20s doing the exact same thing. So it's not, one, it's not generational. And then two, it's not it doesn't happen at every single go-go function. It's just, look, someone's shoe gets stepped on, it accelerates from there. You drinking and you feeling yourself, you're in the vibe. It happens. But yeah, I just immediately felt like a lot of just good feelings, and yeah, I have a lot of questions, but we'll keep going.
Yeah, the old heads, they need to relax, okay? They need
Yeah.
to let the beef go, whatever it was. One thing I wanted to talk about in regards to violence. There was a quote that said, "Love can be found in the go-go," and
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely a desire for, especially our generation, to keep it peaceful. I had the privilege of going to like 2 Mochella events, and it's very much like whenever somebody gets a sense of like a fight, the audience or the performers are very much like, cut that out, that is not the time for this. Even everybody's joining in like, chill out, chill out, chill out, because we're kind of like clinging on for dear life for the right to be able
Yeah.
to play this music. Do you have any thoughts about how it's being kept alive right now?
Well, I mean, I definitely, in terms of the violence, like I definitely just wanted to obviously mention it, but beyond just mentioning it, I just really hope that the film would really like show that this is a healing space, this is a sacred space, and this is a space that we have to protect. And so instead of like, just like going in and talking about, all of the violent incidents that have happened in the go-go, it was really just like, let me just instead promote this message that this is a space that we have to protect. And so I hope that I touched on that in that way, but still just recognized it for that, and really just hope that in people watching it and seeing that they would be able to take a step back and recognize it as that as well. Yeah.
Sweet. I want to ask about this footage. Oh my gosh. You had some great footage for this film to support. I mean, like my favorite one was the people on the roof. I didn't get up on the roof. You had some amazing footage. Can you talk about what that was like? Like, is there like a library you were able to,
Honestly, I'm gonna just be really honest. YouTube was my best friend, and I really didn't feel comfortable just pulling things from YouTube and including it. Like, I really found out the person that filmed that during that time, who he goes by the name of Go Go Jesus, and and I got in contact with him, and instead of just pulling it from YouTube, I wanted to just make sure that it was okay for me to use the footage. So the majority of the archival footage came from him.
Wow.
And he was very generous and very supportive. There is a video of Go-Go Mickey that opens the film, and I found that from YouTube, and he was doing like these like video diaries on his YouTube like years back, and that was something that I pulled. But honestly, YouTube is such my best friend, and it's just kind of like, I mean, it's free, like it's really just such a good source, which is why I now have my film on YouTube. Um, but yeah, the majority of it was from YouTube and from Go Go Jesus.
Sweet. That's one of the I would say beautiful, but also when it comes to like recording and publishing, all the legal terms about music. Bounce beat in New Orleans has a problem with that, because bounce beat is about like taking a song and adding a bounce beat to it, or like doing a riff over a bounce beat. And go-go is kind of like that too, where we don't really see music as like an ownership. This belongs to Sony, or whatever the hell. But that's why, I mean, the beauty of it is that it is free. It is something that you can pick up. Yeah, do you I kind of want to talk about, me and you were living in New York at like the same time.
Mhm.
And when I would play go-go music, There's that pots and pans music, you know, like it got so much hate.
Yeah.
Can you talk about just kind of like, because I feel like people are just really trying to get on the go-go train, but maybe you
Yeah. I mean, I definitely probably still do get those reactions from people in New York, but honestly, New Yorkers, they are so like, we're the shit. Like, y'all, you don't tell me about nothing. Like, we know everything. Like, and so I was definitely getting that reaction from them. But also, it's kind of like, I don't want to say that I understand it, but it is such an experience that you need to experience live that like I really don't think that it was just fair for me to just play a recording and for you to like get the sense of what this is, like it's definitely an experience that you have to to be amongst the people, be amongst the bands, the call and response. You have to participate, and you got to shake your ass. So it's just kind of like and I mean, sometimes a lot of these songs they aren't like recorded in the best way. So you're not even really capturing the lead singer's vocals in the way that really like showing her flex. So it's just kind of like like I get it to a certain extent, but I was definitely getting those reactions.
Yes, yes. It's you know, we're considered, DC for a while was considered like a second tier city. Kind of like I lived in Richmond for a little bit, and Richmond has such an appreciation for local music because big names don't come there. Beyonce's not gonna come to Richmond.
Yeah.
You barely may even get Mary J. Blige. You know what I mean? Like they have such an appreciation for local music, and I think DC kind of operated like that for a little bit. When you talk about class, and there was a part in the story where you did talk about like the classism with being in these spaces, and being seen there. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. There was also the festivals that was happening. You mentioned Georgia Avenue Day, or Caribbean Fest, which became Georgia Avenue Day. Those were some fun times.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to get back to that, but it's hard to say. What do you think?
I mean, I have no idea. I grew up, I'm from Southeast, so like my festival was Unifest. And it's like I say Unifest, Unifest. Oh my God. Okay, because it's like I have said Unifest to people, from DC, and they've been like, what's Unifest? And I'm like, I mean, that's really that's what I know, like, because I grew up on U Street and MLK, and it's like I would be able to look outside the window, before it started and see the parade starting, but it's just kind of like and that was a space where I, experienced go-go when I was younger as well. But I mean, it is sad because just thinking about, the pandemic, like it's just like these venues, these artists, there are people who are hurting. Like, like their livelihood is based off of like the nightlife scene. And so, I really do feel for them. And I know people are trying to, be innovative and do the digital thing. And I also know that a lot of go-go pans have been very present for a lot of the protests that have been happening this year in DC. But and I'm sure even some of them is at the clubs when they're not supposed to be right now. But it's just like, this is their bread and butter. Like this is their livelihoods. So, I really, I don't know. And I mean, I don't know. It's sad. I can't even say.
A lot of the venues are closing. Like Marvin was one of the places that kind of had the grown and sexy go-go.
Mm-hmm.
Like described in the film, they had like the grown and sexy go-go, but a lot of them are closing as a result of not having enough business, or maybe they just foresee a different future.
Yeah.
But, yeah, sometimes I live in Southeast now, and I like to drive past and see like, just chart where these different spaces were, like the Black Hole and the CFE, and seeing how they operate now with gentrification. Can you kind of speak about go-go and gentrification? Like, new people, they seem to love it, but then some of them seem to not. It's kind of like
Yeah, well, I think that's how like newcomers and just like, just white people in general are, like, in terms of coming into a space where culture already exists. It's kind of like you come into that space because, it has this culture, but then, it's just like, but don't put the music up too much. So it's just kind of like, I mean, I know that during I believe it was the 70s or the 90s, over 70% of DC's population was Black, and now it's like just like 40%. So I mean, the makeup of the city is definitely changing, and you could just in charting those venues, like you were saying, you can see how a lot of those venues just started to get further and further outside of DC and into Maryland. Although some of them were already in Maryland, but it's kind of like they became heavily reliant on going out to Maryland to perform, just because they were being pushed out. And I mean, a lot of these venues, like it's a real liability for them to play go-go. They could be at the risk of police raids, of losing their liquor license, just of so many things that it's just like they're just trying to protect themselves. But it's just kind of like, what is DC without go-go music? Like, I don't even know.
It's called a go-go because it's like you just go, you just get up and go, honestly. And with it being out in like Waldorf, like, it's weird calling it go-go. It's not really, you have to really plan for that.
You're
Designated driver,
Gas money.
It's not really go-go, it's like a plan out. You have to plan to go.
Yeah.
Out in La Plata, Maryland.
Yeah. I mean, which people will do it, but they will do it, but it's still just hard. Like, it shouldn't be this hard.
It shouldn't be this hard. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The venues are definitely afraid of it. I remember Pharrell got a lot of flack about talking about go-go and like Virginia or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was like, go-go wasn't really big in Maryland, but it was huge in Virginia. And he got a lot of flack for that. But I will say this, like, go-go people really want to see this sound or get this experience. And it is pretty big in like Fredericksburg, or you wouldn't think, because that's how far they've been pushed out.
Yeah.
Really be free and get sweaty. And, the first go-go I went to was at Gonzaga. Oh, was that the first one? Probably so. And I remember like there were like the people outside of the band was in the middle of the auditorium or the gymnasium, and outside was all the like kids that went to Gonzaga, with their polos. And the closer you get to the band, people had shoes and socks off. People were shirtless. Like, it just got real, and there was only one light on. And that's how real it got.
That's why it was called the blackout.
It was a Gonzaga blackout.
Right now, I look back and I'm like, how did Gonzaga, a private all-boys school, have these functions in their gym?
The Black Student Union.
The
Black Student Union demanded it. They
demanded it.
Some culture.
That's some culture, yeah. That when you had that part about Matt Barnes, that really was like, we just put into perspective, just kind of like how this is viewed by the Montgomery County private school, I don't know, that type of community, versus the demand that these people have, like, no, like, yes, we're at this private school, but we gotta have, we gotta have something that shows that we are, we're part of the community just like y'all. We just, Gonzaga is not a hostro, part of my language, but it's like right there, so for it to be this elite place, it's like, you're off of H Street. It's just kind of jarring, you know what I mean?
No, definitely.
About bounce beat versus, the old school, because that is kind of like the generational divide with go-go.
Yeah. I mean, and I really wanted to kind of bridge that divide with the film, just because the bounce beat gets so much slack from, the older people, and they're just like, that's not real go-go. And it's just like, you all have to understand that we come from you, so with you all being on top of the roof, you know, in the 80s, you know, to see Rare Essence. This is like, how did you not think that like this was gonna like branch out to be, you know, it's just something different. But yeah, and that's why I'm so glad that I was able to like include somebody like Donnell Floyd from Rare Essence in the film. Because you know he emphasized that, just like, you know, I love those bands, I love TCB, I love Backyard, and he's just like, you know, I'm just older, so it's just kind of like I did that when I was younger, but like, you know, I just want to hear something different now that I'm older. Which I felt like was a great perspective, and yeah, I just I hate that those intergenerational like just misunderstandings that we have with one another, just because just we come from you. So
Yeah.
you know, I really just wanted to just include both, include all of them, whether it was like from the 70s, whether it was like the breakdown bands from the 90s, which is Backyard and UCB and all of them, and then go into like Bounce Beat. And yeah, and the Grown and Sexy, which I love them, you know, like during my like research, like the most like I would get so excited to go to Tacoma Station to see Subtle Thoughts, like, you know, like I love the Grown and Sexy bands. So yeah, I was just trying, I hope that, you know, if they watched it, that there would just be some just better understanding that we have from one another, and even the young bands, you know, like I think that it's important for them to understand who their predecessors are, you know, like and to be curious about that. So yeah, I hope to bridge that in the film.
No, absolutely. Because you know, I'm hitting 30 this year.
You know, like
Things I can't clap like I
I
used to.
can't. And that's okay. That's okay, because somebody can.
It's not me. And I
You
hope
know?
it's a good time when they
Yeah. So I can still appreciate it, and I still want others to appreciate it. Like I think everybody should have a clapping moment. I
yeah.
think everybody in their lives.
Or get clapped on.
Or get older and not experience that. Like,
Yeah.
because I might not want to do it. You know, when I turn 40, don't, you know, definitely you need to do it. It's
And like
right.
I described with his Howard University experience, like this is a Rare Essence show. And we still got fights, you know.
It's not generational, which I feel like it crosses different genres of music, because you have the same thing in hip hop. You know, old school hip hop, look down,
Yeah.
R&B, jazz, the whole spectrum of music. So it kind of just spans different genres of music. So it's not just go music.
Yeah, definitely.
Another question I did have for you was, I guess going more into the creative process for this film, outside of researching on YouTube, which I definitely am a fan of myself. But outside of that, what was like your creative process for putting this film together? Was it just you, or did you have a team? What did that look like?
It was just me, and I'm based in Brooklyn, um, and I was, I was, it was so stressful, like just like the commuting back and forth, because I came up with just like a weekly schedule of like where the weekly go-go's were. And I just, you know, just made it my business, like no matter if I just got to be in DC for a night and come back to get to work the next morning, like I'm gonna do that, you know. And it started off with me thinking that it was going to be like this episodic thing. And then I just started getting footage, and I thought that it would really be just an emphasis on the bands, until I realized, okay, you're a woman and you're going into these spaces and these men don't take you seriously. So like, I really didn't think I was going to get access to the bands, to be honest. And so I was just like, well, shit, fuck it. If I can't get access to the bands, then I'm gonna just talk to the people, like I'm gonna just like go to the parties and I'm gonna just start interviewing the people. So that's really where the title, The Let Out, came from, because it was just kind of like, I feel like, when the party lets out, people gather, people just before they go home, just to have that lasting moment of what happened inside. And so, yeah, I just started interviewing people after the club had let out. And I collected just so many interviews from that. And then eventually I got access to the bands. And it was like, okay, well, I can include that now. And it just became this larger thing. Like, I really, like I said, this is one of my first film projects. And I never intended for it to be like this 55-minute film. Like, I mean, it just seems like so much, but I just had so much footage that I couldn't really let go of. So yeah, it was just like me just talking to people and then just starting to see patterns and see themes come out, and naturally just meeting people. um and yeah, it was like I like I said, I hadn't been to the Go-Go's because I was in New York, so I really just had to like re-immerse myself back into that scene.
You see, Aqua has never changed. It is still Aqua. And,
well, I hope it's Aqua after Corona.
right. Excluding the past 8 months, before this pandemic, Aqua was still Aqua.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about mainstream go-go music. I feel like it's slowly like encroaching into the mainstream, and people really starting to recognize it. Like Snoop Dogg now has a song with Rare Essence, and Malik, he's the drummer who really advocated for public music performance.
Yeah, that noise amendment that they were trying to pass.
Yeah, I think he's a finalist on America's Got Talent, and he opened his set with Pac-Man popping. I was like, oh my god! But yeah, I just and also Chuck Brown, his some of his music. I think one of his songs was used in an Apple commercial, if I'm not mistaken.
What?
Something like that. Yeah, he was. It was one of his earlier songs. Back when it was just him and the Soul Searchers, was like sampled, and
oh wow,
it was either a Google or like an Apple commercial.
Okay. Real corporate.
Yeah, real corporate. So much, and then he has his own park now in Petworth, and Georgia. I mean, Chuck Brown Day, his birthday is like a local holiday. So what do you foresee in the future of go-go music, considering we're fighting so hard for our right to perform it? And,
I definitely think that like go-go had its like mainstream moments in the past with Spike Lee School Days, with Jill Scott, who else? A. Marie. There were like those, those moments. But I really hope with them recently passing that that law that like go-go is the designated music of DC. I really hope that we start to see some like just real like initiatives in DC, especially as far as like I think bringing it into school programming. So whether that's like, because what I would like to see, my thing is just like it has to be just introduced to the youth. If we're going and doing all of these things for like the bands that already exist, that's great, to keep that culture going in DC. But like, I think that it's really going to matter once they start making that connection with the youth, because they need to pick it up, and so I would really just love to see some music programs across DC schools start to like embrace that and encourage it. And I think that would really be a success for me.
Absolutely. The school has to do it, because you mentioned church as influence on go-go music, but unfortunately, from my perspective, there's no numbers that I can provide, but I think like church going has kind of decreased
I agree.
in 20 years. but there's not the knowledge of learning music and playing by ear. Because learning it in school, like you learn how to play sheet music, you're not learning how to like pick up and like improvise because it doesn't really allow for that. You're learning how to play for a band or an orchestra versus like when somebody catches a spirit, you do this riff, you know?
Yeah. Which it was very important for me to just include just how the church serves as this like conservatory for Black musicians, like, and that's not even just go-go, like, you know, that's literally like every great Black musician, whether Nina Simone, Sam Cooke, Brandy, whoever. It's just like everybody was introduced to music through the church. And so yeah, it had something gotta connect those dots.
Seriously, even when you watch like an award show, like a music award show, there's gonna be an artist with a gospel band behind it.
Yeah. It's like all of those people, all of those band members, they were definitely in their church, like choir, like, and they are the best musicians, really. Because I, like you said, like, it's not so much about like sheet music or just like, you know, that it's just like a spiritual thing, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say that's something I saw in the film as well. Kind of like the ancestral roots of go-go comes from, you know, the motherland. It's not something that was created just out of random thought. You know, something that is within us is with something that was passed down in terms of like that beat and the step and the rhythm and all that. So I think you're right. It's definitely important to teach it in schools, but it's also good to pass it down because I feel like the way I got exposed to it is the way other kids probably should get exposed to it through their families and through I guess more natural ways of learning about history and music and knowledge and all that good stuff. But
and those outdoor events, those outdoor festivals, those play a huge role in that.
And family cookouts, which is as
you
know, big this year because of obvious reasons, but hopefully, you know, years to come, that'll kind of resurge and we'll have like those big old family cookouts with go-go music blasting and all that good stuff with no mask on.
Yes.
Even though that sounds crazy to think about now, but you know, that'll remind us of the good old days.
Yeah.
We have a question from a one Shira Whitaker.
I wonder who that is.
Right. This is Malachi's fiance, who is how far away? We're 3 weeks into 3 weeks away from a new one coming. So we're so happy to have.
Wow.
What's your favorite band? And what's your favorite moment of shooting the film?
My favorite band, and this is just because like I definitely grew up seeing them, but I recently saw them like when I came home for like the holidays this past year. And like CCB is like, they're like so amazing. So many hits. Like but like I love TOB, and honestly like TOB, just them, like I'm really just appreciative for them for just like, you know, just opening up and allowing me to you know, just talk to them. I really, really appreciate them. And again, like my grown in tech, like I love subtle thoughts. Like I really love subtle thoughts. So yeah, it would have to be them. And in terms of my favorite memory, I just seeing people. No, my favorite memory was meeting these girls outside of this club. It was some lounge uptown. And I was just asking to interview them, and they were so cool. And I ended up like they ended up being like the reaction clappers. So they like they're like these group of girls that like go to like all the go-go's. And they just like really get the crowd just in the mood, and because they're just like clapping. And so like meeting them, they were so fun, and like they introduced me to them to Reactions manager, and they were the girls who outside of one club they just started like clapping like on like after I had asked them a few questions. So like I definitely just met some really like fun people. Yeah, that was really memorable.
Yeah, that's the unsolicited clapping session. That's
Yes.
but honestly, with Bounce Beat, I think that one thing I talked to my older brother about it sometimes. It's like go-go kind of coincided with like hip hop trends because Bounce Beat really came about when like it was after the bling bling era. Then it became ass shaking because not everybody got bling bling. I mean, this is what it is. And it's like fake the funk when you like, but it really did coincide with like the era of hip hop that we grew up on. We didn't really grow up on boom bap rap, we didn't really
No.
the butt was what that came out when we were in elementary school.
Can't relate.
Can't relate.
I appreciate it, but
I definitely.
we grew up on a different, era. So
Exactly.
yep.
What's his name? Huggy Bear from EU. He teaches music at a high school in Arlington.
Oh wow.
Like that's kind of how it's transgressed. I wanted to ask you one final, well, maybe it's a final question. I don't know, but I know that you took a trip to Ghana, was it? Or
I
you?
did, but I did not go on that Ghana trip with Backyard.
Okay.
Okay, because they did a trip where they brought people out there and they performed in Ghana, and I think it was just Backyard.
Did you see any correlations with like the music there in Go-Go? Because I think it was, is it Natalie who was?
Yes, Natalie. Yes, she went with them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she went with them.
Yeah, but I mean, from my own experiences, and I have been to Ghana, and I a few years ago went to Senegal, and it's just just the drum, like the drum, as we all know, just plays such a huge role in Black music, and that's Black music across the diaspora. Mm-hmm. And that's even like Chuck Brown. He played with a band called, I think they're from Cuba. They're called Los Latinos, and so it's just kind of like, I'm sure like even in Cuba, like the role that the drum plays is really important in their music. But yeah, I just think it's the drum, which is why I started the film with Go-Go Mickey, because the conga, the drums, that is the pulse of Go-Go. And no matter if we speak the same language as each other, no matter what, like once we hear that, I think that we will naturally react.
Of course.
That's our connection.
Yeah. I want to speak on one thing when it was a Don't Mute DC event where it was a go-go truck going down 16th Street towards the Capitol. And it was this beautiful moment where like the truck went under this tunnel. I just hit myself in the face. It went under this tunnel and like emerged, and Malik was like leading it. It was like it felt like the second coming. Like it was one of the most amazing experiences, because I really do think him marching towards the Capitol with this go-go truck, and he's at the top on his drum doing his thing. It really, this is the sound of our nation's capital, essentially one of the most important places in the world on like a grand scheme. There's a lot of decisions that get made in DC. So I think that's why I really gun for this like screening of this film, because I think a lot of people need to see this and really need to hear an honest perspective. There have been a lot of initiatives to tell this story, but it's not from people who look like us, And I think that you really got in there and got the real story of like what it is from members, from people who were there, not just on the sidelines, but like actively participating, So thank you. This was an amazing experience to be able to screen this, and I appreciate you for being here.
Thank you all so much. I really like I finished this film. I think it was in 2018. So like to still just get so much love, from people in DC has just really like meant so much to me. And just my filmmaking journey, really, like, because it's like I do look back and I'm like, wow, I feel like I have really grown as an artist, but like I really just appreciate like all the love and support. Like people in DC really like go hard for you, like, and it's just like I really don't take that for granted.
Yeah, people don't realize there's a city around the nation's capital.
Yeah.
There's a city around, like when I would tell people I'm from DC, they're like, oh, will you live in the White House? Or I'm like, no, it's a whole
Chocolate City.
chocolate city. They surprised they found out it's black,
Yeah.
He built the Capitol, he built the White House, that whole thing. So.
Those people.
Capitol, you get lost. If you get lost around the Capitol, you might end up somewhere you didn't mean to end up,
Yeah.
reality. So it's important that people know that and
Yeah.
dig into, even going back to Homeboy on the corner of 7th and U Street with his go-go music. People have fought so hard to silence him. It's just like, no, he's not. That's a comfort. You went to Banneker, you go.
Yeah.
Banneker to
That is the experience walking down Georgia Avenue.
Playing his go-go music.
Yeah.
So, it's an act of resistance, honestly, and
Yeah.
that we there's a lot of resistance going on for many things. There's plenty of things to protest. So holding on to our culture is like completely necessary right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say. Did you want to add anything, Malachi?
Just one more question. I guess like next steps, are you doing a sequel? Are you going to Africa and shooting some more footage there? Building a whole correlation. I'm just pitching a whole sequel to you. Come on. Do you have another film in the works? Or
I mean, if I could get some help, because my thing is I did this by myself. And honestly, I never want to make another thing alone again. Like I think just like the beauty in filmmaking is collaboration, and I did this to myself just to prove to myself that I could do it. But I'm looking forward to more projects with other people. I do have one thing that short film that I made last year that I should share any day now. But I don't know. It's like my first like narrative thing that I've ever done, and I'm just a little apprehensive just about that. But it's so short. It's like 3 minutes. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to just creating more. And I don't know if I want to stay, in the documentary space, but I could see myself like creating something that blends like narrative and documentary. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not sure what's next, but I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited to see more of your stories, more from your voice, telling stories from your perspective. For those that are still watching, I see there's been like 3 or 4 people just kind of bouncing in around, but if you are still with us, please join us as we're talking about filmmaking. Join us tomorrow for the start of our 5-part filmmaking course, Let's Make a Movie, taught by Blake the Paperboy Bynum. Tomorrow is the introductory course. And you can find out more information at www.creativesuitland.org. And you can pay for the 5-part course, or you can just do drop-in. This will go on every Thursday until October 22nd. And again, thank you so much, Ayanna, for joining us. This was amazing. Being able to reminisce, like, I embrace my old auntie vibes right now. As I'm hitting 30, like I'm all the way with
Me too. Me too.
I'm all the way with it. Young folks, y'all can have it, but no, young folks need to take it so they can
take it, please.
And the experience of the live go-go band. So.
Yes. Thank you all so much. It was great talking to you all.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Take care.
Peace out, folks. See you next time.
Wear your masks.
Bye.